Now, if you knew you had a 50-50 chance of developing a fatal disease, one which killed your mother, and a simple test would tell you whether you had it, would you want to find out? Well, that's the dilemma facing radio broadcaster Kat Harbourne. This is her story.
Ready to get naked! Welcome to the Naked Podcast from the BBC. I'm Kat.
I've often taken my quest for the naked truth quite literally as a radio broadcaster.
Dad, can you die from Huntington's?
Yeah, this lad's going to.
But away from the studio, there's one question I've always been too afraid to ask. Am I going to die from the same disease that killed my mum?
It's 10 years since my mum Jeanette died from Huntington's disease. She was 54 years old. To mark the anniversary, I'm going to run the London Marathon this year, and I'm raising money to fund research into the disease. It's a rare degenerative condition that gradually kills off healthy nerve cells in the brain, leading to loss of language, thinking, reasoning, memory, coordination and movement. In short, it robs you of everything that you are.
I'm on my way to interview somebody who knows a lot about what it's like to live with somebody with Huntington's disease and watch them decline and then die. I'm feeling quite nervous because I don't want them to get upset. I'm worried that I might get upset. That person is my dad.
Mum never liked having a photograph taken, but
You've got a good few photos there, I think.
I have. I've managed to capture it some, yeah.
I'm just a few years younger than my mum was when she was diagnosed.
She started to notice that she was off balance. She fell off her bike a couple of times, and because she was a doctor, she knew that this wasn't normal. So she got a referral to a neurologist at the nearby hospital. That's the point at which she told me that there was something amiss, and by October she had the diagnosis.
How old were we, and how did you decide how and when to tell us?
You were 12, and that means Nick was 2 and the others were somewhere in between, so you're all quite young. We explained straight away what Huntington's disease is, and that people usually live for quite a long time after they've got the diagnosis.
This family Christmas, captured on Dad's video camera shortly after Mum was diagnosed, shows how open they were.
Dad, can you die from Huntington's?
Yeah,
My dad answers my sister in a matter-of-fact way.
Do you think if you and Mum had known about Huntington's disease and that she was going to get it, that you'd have had us 4 children?
That's an almost impossible question to answer. I would like to think so, because of course having you 4 has been the joy of both of our lives, and I don't think it would have stopped us from having a family. Would we have had 4? I don't know.
I think I would quite like somebody else to decide for me, so should I take the test?
I'm absolutely not going to tell you what to do, and I will say that to each of you. It's not my decision, it has to be yours. Sorry, sweetheart.
I was worried that one of us would get upset. It was me.
You said that there would be a cure by the time we were Mum's age. Did you really think there would be?
I did. We had every reason to suppose that by now there would be an effective treatment.
Tonight at 10, a major breakthrough in the treatment of Huntington's disease, which could lead to new therapies for Alzheimer's and other conditions.
That was back in 2018, and clinical trials are well underway that are exciting the scientific community. For the past few months, I've been training for the London Marathon. It's to mark the 10th anniversary of Mum's death. I'm raising money for research and trying to raise awareness of the disease. And the York 10-mile race led me to a chance encounter with Duncan Smith, who has Huntington's.
I've never met anyone with Huntington's disease, apart from my mum, apart from when I was young. Because your dad,
my dad
had it.
And his dad had it. So far, the rest of my family, my auntie, my dad's sister, doesn't have it. She's clean.
And Duncan's on the drug trial, so gonna see, we swap numbers, We're going to go see if we can see Duncan, find out a bit more. 6 miles, 4 more to go, we can do it.
Finishing the race, I was suddenly overcome with emotion. Duncan's a similar age to me.
Stupid, I know, but I just didn't think that you would be able to keep running. So maybe it's not as bad as I thought.
38, 31, 24.
Duncan's been on a medical trial for 3 years. He's been receiving a new drug and carries out a daily routine of tests to determine his reactions, coordination and balance. The data from all those on the trial is uploaded to a centre in Belgium for evaluation. I caught up with him at home in Hull a few months after we met on the run in York.
Duncan, hello, nice to see you again.
I have to go to Manchester every month for this lumbar puncture, and they put this new drug in your spine, completely new, like first drug ever tested on humans, and it seems to be working.
Like me, Duncan grew up watching a parent die from Huntington's disease. It's 9 years since his dad, Ian, died. Duncan knew that his father's fate could also be his own and that of his sister, Jenny.
You strike me as being very positive now. How do you do that?
It's not the end of the world, because there's all this new, the new research into HD.
What do you think? Should I have the test?
Yes. What if you've not got it? Then you can carry on that, but if you've got it, then yeah. There's a choice now.
Thank you.
Check.
Toby Foster at breakfast.
My day job is on-air producer for BBC Radio Sheffield, but I also co-present the Naked podcast with Jenny Els.
Every week we start with something called the Nude News, which basically...
It's an award-winning interview show where we talk to our guest completely in the buff.
Jenny and I undress with a guest for candid conversations. It's cheeky, it's challenging, and it's partly inspired by watching my mum become more disabled. Why don't we celebrate the bodies that we have now? So that's our mission.
So we're on our way to Swindon to meet somebody who has experience of Huntington's disease and who might be able to help me make the decision about whether or not to have the test.
I know all too well what Kelly Terranova is going through. She's losing her mum just like I was. It's a horrible thing to see someone you love disappearing in front of your eyes. And like me, Kelly knew that could be her fate too.
Even though it's 50-50 and it's a flip of a coin, I think my brain just was like, prepare for the worst my whole life. Also, I have a sister and she had tested prior to me and tested negative. So even though it's a flip of a coin, you just think, how can that fall in our favour twice?
Kelly went through the counselling required to take the test, only to change her mind at the last minute, but finally took the test after she became unexpectedly pregnant.
That moment was going to change my life forever. And when I sat down, the doctor doesn't even take a breath. He just said, you haven't got it. And for me, the shock of those words, I actually physically pinched myself.
Little Freddie is the reason Kelly took her test 4 years ago. She needed to know. In a way, the decision was forced upon her.
I think the best advice I can give you in terms of testing is wait for a point where you wake up every single day and in your head you're like, I want to know. Because knowing is less stressful than not knowing.
As I neared the end of filming, I was contacted by a man from Sheffield. Damien Lodge is 58 years old and lost his mum to Huntington's disease. A father of 2 daughters, he thought he was safe after 50 without symptoms. But his sister Molly has been recently diagnosed in her 70s.
So glad I didn't do it. And I've got kids and I've enjoyed my life. And my advice to you would be, don't do the gene test. Live your life, enjoy it, don't be burdened with it.
Live your life and enjoy it, don't be burdened with it. I really like those words because Damien is 58 and he's managed to do just that. I think it's really important to live in hope and not fear, and maybe that's something
I could choose to do. I'm now 6 years younger than my mum was when she was diagnosed. For now, I've decided not to have the test, but use her memory to inspire me to live as full a life as possible and be as comfortable as I can be with the uncertainty I'm forced to accept.